Hello, boys and girls. It's time for another story. Our story today is called A Pirate Redeemed. Well, Tobias, he was standing along the railing of the big sailing ship, the Britannia. He was holding on to that railing, and he was thinking. He closed his eyes tight, and he thought about what was starting to happen for him. He was sailing on his way to St. Thomas to be a missionary. He was going to tell the slaves and the people that lived there all about Jesus. Well, as he was standing there, he could feel the mist from the ocean. And while he still had his eyes closed, he thought about what they had told him about St. Thomas. St. Thomas sits right on the Caribbean, and they had told him that the houses had red roofs and that the beaches were white and the water was so clear and beautiful. Well, while he was standing there with his eyes closed, suddenly a shout rang
Ship
out.
ahoy!
Tobias looked around to see what was going on. And as he looked out to sea, he saw a smaller ship speedily coming right toward the big Britannia. And on the top of it, he saw a flag flying, a black flag with the picture of a skull and crossbones on it. He knew of only one type of ship that ever had such an awful flag on it. A pirate ship. There were pirates coming. Tobias was scared, and rightfully so. Back in the days of sailing ships, pirates raided big sailing ships all the time. They stole the cargo and they killed the people. He was afraid. Then the captain of the Britannia, he came up and he called everybody to the deck. And he said, "We have to fight." Well, Tobias, he looked at that pirate ship. Already it was close enough that he could see the pirates running back and forth. He could see the big cannons on the side of the ship. And he could now see the men pulling out their daggers and their guns. He grabbed a hold of one of the deckhand's shoulder and he said, "We can't fight. There's not enough of us. We can't fight. They'll just kill us." And the man jerked his arm away and he said, "If we don't fight and we're taken prisoner, you would wish you were dead." Tobias turned and he made his way down the stairs into the hold of that big ship, where there was a room where all the other missionaries were. And when he got there, he found them doing a missionary type of fighting. They were down on their knees and they were praying to God to save them. And Tobias, he knelt down and he joined them. And he said, "Oh God, there's nothing we can do to save ourselves. Please, if you want us to go to St. Thomas and be missionaries to the people there, please save us. Oh God, please save us." Then Tobias got up and he went back up on deck. By this time, that boat had sailed so speedily in the wind that it was almost right by their boat. There was only a piece of ocean between the two boats. Tobias, he was terrified. And then he heard the pirate captain yelling out to his men, "Throw the grappling hooks." And he saw a bunch of men rush to the side of that pirate ship. And they grabbed the grappling hooks. I will show you a picture of them. What they did with them was they were big hooks that had several spikes on them. And they would throw them from one ship to the other ship, and they would go over the edge of the deck. And then the people in this boat could pull them tight. And it tied the two ships together. So this ship, the Britannia, couldn't get away. Plus, they used him for those men to get from the pirate ship into this other ship. Well, by this time, those men all had one of those grappling hooks in their hand, and they were getting ready to throw them. But Tobias couldn't believe what he was seeing. Right when those men, all of them were ready to let go of their grappling hooks, a huge wave came out of nowhere, and it picked up the edge of that pirate ship, and it tipped it. And do you know what happened? All those men that had the grappling hooks in their hand to throw them, they all fell over the edge of the ship into the ocean. While the captain of the pirate ship, he looked at his men and he called another group of them over. He said, "You throw the grappling hooks." So those men, they all got in place and they got a hold of one of those hooks and they were going to throw it over the rail of the Britannia. But once again, here came another big wave. Where were these waves coming from? It went, and once again, the pirate ship tipped on its side, and those men toppled into the ocean. Now, the pirate captain was mad. He said, "Load the cannons! Load the cannons!" And so all of his men rushed to the side of the ship where there were little tiny doors that they could open, and there sat big cannons. They put great big balls, metal balls, into those cannons, and they lit wicks on the back that would send those flying over. Now, those boats were so close together, there was no way that those cannons could miss that boat. No way. So they got ready, and as Tobias watched, he could see a big puff of smoke, and he could see the cannonball coming flying. And when the cannonballs got over that little piece of ocean between the two boats, they were going, and they got over it, and they went plop into the water, and they went bubble, 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 bubble down to the bottom of the sea. Tobias said, God, it's God. And he and the other missionaries started cheering, God is saving us, God is saving us. Well, that captain, he said, more cannonballs, fire the cannons. And they did. But every cannonball, once it got over the water, went plop into the ocean. And there was a big splash, but nothing hit that boat. Nothing. They kept firing and firing and firing, but every cannonball went splash into the ocean and bubble, bubble, bubble to the bottom. By now, there was so much smoke from the firing of the cannons that from the Britannia, they couldn't even see the pirate ship anymore. There was just smoke. And the captain of the Britannia said, put up the sails. They put up the sails as fast as they could, and those huge big sails filled with air. And while the men on the pirate ship were behind this whole bank of smoke, the Britannia sailed away on top of that ocean as fast as it would go in the wind. And by the time the wind blew all this smoke away, the pirates, they took out their spyglass and they looked, and the Britannia was far away. They gave up the chase and they went back out to sea to find some other boat. Well, the Britannia, it did land in St. Thomas, and all those missionaries got off, and for the next 5 years, they worked among those people, the slaves that were there, and all the other people that lived in St. Thomas and around that area. And they told them all about Jesus, how he had come to save them, how he had died for them, how they could live for him. Well, at the end of that 5 years, the missionaries had agreed that they would meet together again right there in St. Thomas, and they were going to have a celebration of how God had saved them 5 years ago from the pirate ship, and how he had been with them and helped them with all their work there. So they were all gathered in this big room, and they had talked about how God had saved them, and they had sung hymns, They had a meal together, and they were getting ready to have a prayer meeting when there was a knock on their door. And Tobias, he went to the door and he opened it. And there stood a strong man with a friendly face. He was smiling at him. And Tobias said, "Can I help you, sir?" And the man said, "Are you the missionaries that were on the Britannia 5 years ago, and you were attacked by a pirate ship?" And Tobias said, "Yes, sir, that's us. But why would you like to know?" And that tall man, he smiled again, and he said, "I am the captain of the pirate ship." Tobias's eyes got big, and all the missionaries' mouths popped open, and they looked at that man. And I think the man realized that they were afraid of him. And he said, I just came to tell you the rest of what happened." And they looked at him. He just stood there. And he said, "I was amazed at what happened between our two ships. I wanted to believe in a God that could do such impossible things. So, as I went from place to place, all of you have told your story. And I was told that you had prayed to God, and that's why that had happened. During this 5 years, I've learned all about Him. God has saved me. He's changed me." They were amazed. Tobias, he turned to the missionaries and he said, "Not only did God save us from the pirates, He saved the pirate captain from sin. He's been redeemed. He's been saved. Now we have much more to be thankful for." And with the pirate captain with them, they finished with their prayer meeting. Boys and girls, just because you're good doesn't mean you're the only one that God wants to save. He loves everybody that lives here in our world, and He wants even the bad people to change and come to Him so He can take them home when He comes. We serve an amazing God that can do the impossible. And the biggest miracle is that He can save the good and the bad. Thank you, boys and girls. I'll see you next week. Bye-bye.